Hey, welcome in, folks. This is v-LHda-LxYC. We are in the long dark, currently hanging out in Pleasant Valley. So we survived our trip to Ash Canyon and Timberwolf Mountain, and well, not our trip there. We started there, and then we came down here.
This pack is getting kind of heavy.
I think what we're looking at here is probably going to stay here for the night, because everything here is cured, right? Yeah, so we're all cured. Oh, we need to go make food if we can. Okay, we'll try to cook up the can. Oh, you know what we were going to do? I don't remember if we'd already been there. No, we just came down. Okay.
Oh, so cold.
I think we're just going to stay overnight here, and then in the morning we'll go over to Misty Creek Cave, see if we can find a bedroll there, or at least get some coal. Yeah, I know how you feel, Astrid. Don't know if we're doing a long run tonight, but we are.
I'm not sure I can carry much more.
Can't make anything else yet. Okay, so next step is to make some more tea. Okay, folks.
Apparently I'm sinking in my chair. Slouch.
There we go. Yeah. I recently went out on,
It's dusk, so it can't be far.
I guess you could say it's sort of like a blind date. It was a setup with the person that wanted to introduce us there as well. So kind of a 3-person kind of thing. And I don't know. It's like sometimes people think they understand who you are or what you're looking for, and they just really have a very simplified version of who you are, and the people they think are going to be a match are maybe only a little bit aligned. So like nice people, but not really a good fit. So. Yeah.
If I don't rest suit, I'm gonna faint.
Okay. Let's grab her. Well, I guess we could do another Panic. Yeah. Oops. Distracted. Okay. I was busy trying to respond to a text here.
Drop any of this gear.
Okay. Here, I'll do the responsible thing and do a be right back. Oops, be right back. Okay, back. Okay, we are head back. I was saying earlier that I was on something of a blind date earlier this week. Someone else set me up, and on some level, I get the sense that they really don't understand what type of a person I am. So it's like well-intentioned, but I didn't really feel a connection to the person they tried to match me up with. So, who was a nice person, but yeah, just. I would say first impressions were they're a nice person who they did not really leave a strong impression with me as to what they cared about or what they did other than their work and maybe going to see movies occasionally. And it's just not enough. I'm like, yeah. So I think when you reach a certain age, people start assuming that if you are of a certain age and you're single, then the friend that they know who is of a certain age and single is obviously going to be a great match. Like, so it was like, no. But, I don't know, but our mutual friend, the person that did this setup, wants me to at least give them another chance. So. So what do I say? Do I just say like, maybe? But they asked a question which I think they should have asked initially, which was, you know, what qualities do you appreciate, in a woman? And I was like, well, it's like what I said. What I was thinking was like, this is the question you should have asked me before you decide to set me up with your friend. Um, but yeah, I said like I like very smart, well-read, witty women who have a wide range of interests and things they're passionate about. Someone who inspires me with what they're doing in the world and in the community. And so I feel like that's something that I feel is important. Is like you should be with someone who inspires you, someone who is fascinating to you, someone who there's always some dimension to them that keeps you interested. And yeah, so I feel like that's like a critical thing for me at least. Yeah. Okay, so a couple more. 50 first dates. Yeah. I'm way behind. I am sadly one of those people. It goes like every 7 years before they kind of, more like a cicada. I come out of my shell like I dig myself out of the earth every like 17 years to go and say, maybe I should trade someone, and then they crawl back into the earth again. Ooh, weather is nice. Let's do this. Okay, so we still have no bedroll. Yeah, I think it's also hard to explain to people that I am very, very, very good at reading people. Usually within, within about like 15, 20 minutes of talking to someone and listening really closely to them and watching how they interact with others, I'll have a pretty good sense of what type of person they are. I won't know everything, but I'll have a very, very, very good sense of what type of person they are. Their personality, what they're worried about, what they value, all sorts of things. They're little tells in their conversation. And so, yeah, usually within about half an hour talking to someone, I'll know if there's like what type of person they are. And one person, I was talking to who I think I was doing some sort of outreach where I was on the phone talking to, like, calling through a list of people for some event. And so I didn't know all the people I was talking to. They were just like people I was supposed to reach out to. And I remember having this conversation with one of them, and I told her that, like, I'm really good at reading people. And she said, like, oh, I don't really believe that. And I said, yeah, well, I could probably tell you a few things about yourself. Like, we've never met. We've just been talking for like the last 20 minutes. But here are some things that I think I understand about you. And I proceeded to talk to her about, like, tell her, like, these things. And there was kind of this stunned silence afterwards. She said, like, we've never met, right? I was like, no. That's kind of weird. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah. I kind of spooked her because it was a little bit too accurate. So. I mean, there's a reason why I think on some level I could have been. I mean, it's why I like detective novels. And it's why I like watching and reading really well-crafted, like, espionage stories. Because I do feel like there's a part of me that's really good at that type of observation and understanding of people.
This pack is getting kind of heavy.
But I'm not always right. Sometimes I'm wrong. Sometimes I misread someone. But usually I'm pretty good.
Well, this stuff will come in handy.
Oh, that was nice and random. We'll take that. So I guess I'm saying I'm not necessarily looking for someone that has as much education as me. I don't think that's, like, always necessarily a perfect representation of someone's intellectual life, like what they care about, what they're learning about, what they're thinking about. But I do think that I am attracted to people who are actively intellectually engaged in the world, that are thinking, reading, studying, learning, always trying to expand the world that they understand. That I find really engaging. I like people who have, like, inexplicable or curious, like, side passions that don't always, like, they don't make any sort of economic or fiscal sense, but they pursue them nonetheless. So, for instance, you know, I find my current roommate fascinating because they're in chemistry doing a PhD, but they're also fascinated by literature and philosophy, which none of their lab mates share a common passion with. So really kind of out of step, but I think I really like that. I think that's like a fascinating, you know, characteristic. Eek. Oh, I see our bedroll.
I'll lay down.
We have achieved bedroll. Bedroll has been obtained. Our days of sleeping only inside homes has ended.
Wait. I'm so cold. I'm warm.
There's like never anything up here. I always want there to be something up here, but there's never anything up here. So I don't know if there's supposed to be something up there. But yeah, there's never anything up there.
I need something to eat.
It's kind of weak too. Come on, guys. So I went to a book fair earlier today. No surprise, I spent money and bought more books. But it was really it was a great experience in the sense that I got to see some friends I hadn't seen for a long time, including a poet that I knew from the last time I lived in Vancouver, which was over 20 years ago. And we had not stayed in touch. And so it was really delightful to catch them when they were doing a reading and chat with them afterwards and get some books signed. And I gave her I gave her my books as a gift, flat out gift, just because I thought it would be nice, because the last time we saw each other, she'd just moved up from the States, and I had just moved up from the States, and we were both at the same like poetry event or something like that. And so back then I was still finishing work on my first book. So to be able to hand off like 2 complete books and say, hey, this is what I was up to since last time we saw each other. Kind of cool. And then have her sign like her 2 recent books. So yeah. No, that was fun. And I saw a few other people I hadn't seen at least since last year, some of them longer. But it was good. It was good. And then one of my friends, one of the local writers who I've had over at my place as part of my poetry potluck events, where I invite local writers over and we bring food and poetry and have a nice little small dinner party and have a good time. So saw one of my guests from that. It was fun. Got an invitation to come to their place sometime for dinner, which I'll look forward to doing. missed. But yeah. No, more and more I think like the thing that I want to do more of is just more of these dinner parties. I think small, intimate dinner party gatherings with writers and intellectuals and artists, and academics. That's what I'm missing. I just need more of that community. What was the nice thing about tonight was that the person who did the setup, you know, paid for our meal. So it was very kind. But I did feel a little guilty because in the end I just didn't really feel the connection that I think she was expecting me to feel for her friend. Maybe, yeah. Yeah. It is true. The nice thing about potlucks are like whatever leftover food is there, you can offer to just keep it. And you end up with a fridge full of really good food. So one of my guests, first time I invited her and her husband over, you know, they brought like this incredible apple cider pie. Oh, so good. And so there was leftovers, and my roommate and I had the leftovers afterwards. And my roommate was like, "This is incredible. Make certain they bring it next time." So I was like, "Okay." So I had them bring it again. But the other guests for the poetry potluck that we had a few weeks back brought sushi, like a whole bunch of sushi, and oh boy, did we eat well. We had so much sushi. I was also thinking like restaurant behavior is also like an indicator. So if you go someplace like we went for sushi and there's a large menu, lots of options, what do you choose to order? It is somewhat revealing. And then if there's a second round or third round of orders, you know, do people reorder the same things or do they try new things? In this case, they reordered the same thing. I was like, I mean, I don't mind, but there's like a lot of other stuff. You know, we could have tried all sorts of other things. Just stayed with the things that they found were safe.
This will come in handy.
No, it won't. No, not another one. We go to the bunker? I think we go to the plane crash. A river, a liver, an ocean of fish. Stomach can only handle one round. Well, I mean, we had... Yeah. It depends too. So. Oh yeah, if you're getting super sandwich, that's plenty. Like I'm saying, like at the sushi restaurant, then you can order like so you can order rolls like the maki, or you can order like individual pieces nigiri. Usually that comes as two pieces of a particular thing, or you can you can order some specialty items, right? So I mean, we ordered we ordered something. Well, they ordered before I got there because my fault. This was not also ideal. I'd taken the bus to get there, and I somehow missed my stop, and so I had to backtrack and catch a second bus to get back to the right place, and then still had to walk. So I was about 10 minutes later than I was supposed to be, which is bad. It's not ideal. But they were fine with that. They had gotten there early, and that was my original intent, but I kind of messed it up. But
Did I say I hate being cold? Because it really
but in any case, yeah, they had. What was I going to say? I was just like, it just seems like it's always I like adventurous people, right? Is from their buffet plate? Yeah. Yeah. There's also strategies for that too, right? If you're an Asian person, you have learned all about the secrets of maximizing buffet plates. You know, you just like don't fill up on any fillers. Don't take the rice. Don't take the noodles. Focus on the expensive items. Like, focus on the things you can't cook at home. You know. Which usually is like a lot of seafood that would just be too expensive to eat anywhere else. Kind of look down on people that half of their buffet plate is fried rice, and you're like thinking, seriously, that's all filler. That's all. Like, that's how the buffet earns its money, is you having fried rice. You know. Did we miss anything? I feel like usually there's another thing, but there's not. Weird. Okay. So someone noted that on Interloper, all these overhead bins are always empty, which I suspect that's the case because I don't remember I've ever pulled anything out of them. I always check them, but I always make the effort, but it's actually an exercise in futility. Yeah, let's skip that. We already have extras.
Hope nobody needs this anymore.
Guess we can warm up here for a little bit. Yep.
Come on, Loper.
Lots of cattails.
I got it. Way too soon.
Okay, let's keep going. Yeah, so this week has been kind of an interesting week. Friday, after so long of being stuck on this one project for work that involves dealing with AWS and trying to get, a AI model to talk to a database through, well, actually it was through, talk to an application that talks to a database that was in a Docker engine container or Docker container. Anyways, whole series of nested things that none of which seemed to work entirely as intended. Once we brought it all onto the Amazon Web Service, platform. Couldn't figure it out. Finally had a conversation on Friday with someone who works very, very deeply and specifically with the AWS services at UBC and, at my university. And it was like, why are you trying to do it this way? It's like, normally we start off you know, rather than try to do everything at once, we started off with a very simple case. I said, yeah, I know. Normally, if we were developing this from the start, we'd start over with like a really small case and build out from there. He says, well, I mean, you could still do that. And so he kind of gave me some pointers about how to get started in that direction. And some of the things I had realized, you know, over the last week of researching and testing things is that it might be possible just to, you know, not try to do things the way we were doing it, but instead look for, you know, an initial much simpler case where we just have a rag system, which is, hey, Bloody Cactus, welcome in. Welcome in, Raiders. Good to see you. Shout out to Bloody Cactus. Oops. Let's not shout myself out. That would have been embarrassing. There we go. Any clips?
Quad. Come on, Quad. Your turn. Go over there. Let's keep building.
Reporting. After several weeks of serious technical problems.
Reporting. You're good. You're good.
I had a conversation with someone.
Turrets are good.
Help me see.
So we're not letting anyone in yet, which is good.
Atreides unit
Get the
destroyed.
prototype up and running faster. So it meant that I actually did a little extra work, which unfortunately goes outside my usual hours, so I didn't get paid for it, but I was able to get the start of the prototype working. And a plan that I was able to hand off to the faculty person that I'm doing the work for, so that she knows what she needs to prepare for Monday or Tuesday so that I can do the rest of the prototype. So yeah, that looks like we might actually have progress. And while it may not be like the full prototype that we want, it will be something that at least is like much, much closer in terms of allowing her to test out like the user behavior, user experience with the proposed tool that she's trying to develop. So we have socks again. Look at us. Socks. Should we stay? Should we go? We have shelter. Yeah, I know. Astrid had to tear up her socks on day 1 because of an injury, and we needed to bandage ourselves in order to keep moving. Otherwise, we were going to get attacked by wolves. Oh, yeah, so if those of you who are joining us who aren't familiar with what we're doing a challenge that I came up with, which is Too Many Wolves, which is a custom Loper plus. So we kind of use a random custom Loper generator, or a generator that produces randomized custom settings that are Loper plus. And the only thing we did is we went through afterwards and we turned off all the animals except for wolves and timber wolves, which we set it very high. And so the world has no other animals, just wolves and timber wolves. And we were going to survive 50 days in this. And hopefully we'll go from being prey to being hunter. So that's the goal. Usually within 50 days you can get to a bow and get hunting, and maybe even have like cooking 5. You're really fast. Day 100 you can get to cooking 5. Day 50, if you're really moving. So, yeah. No, most of the runs I lose to wolves. So. Not the easy, obvious wolves. No, it's always the sneaky wolves that wait for the exact moment that the wind kicks up and shuts off or like blows out your torch and then leaves you completely defenseless. Those are the wolves I hate. Hate with passion. Or the ones that, oh, what happened to our shelf? It just shrank into a shoe shelf. Look at that, shoe shelf. Shoe rack. See, if we re-enter, does it pop back up or does it sink further? Yeah, it's still low. Still low. It was a few seconds ago, this high. Now it's down here. Weird. This one too, I think, is down a little bit, but I'm not positive. I could be wrong, but I do feel like this is normally a taller shelf. Right? Should be one more shelf. Okay. What do we have for food? We have bannock.
I'm not sure I can carry much more.
Yeah, okay, we got plenty of food here. But it's early. We have more tea. We can make more tea. What else is out here? We see. I mean, there's not going to be moose or anything. It's going to be nothing. The world is very empty when you turn off everything except for the wolves.
I wonder if I can drop any of this gear.
I guess maybe we'll just boil some more water.
Come on, little fucker. Come on. That didn't work. Come on, little fire. Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
Okay, let's go back to doing some cooking here. Guess we can make some more bannock. So just before you came in, Bloody Cactus, one of the things I was talking about was I spent part of the day at a book festival in town. I live in Vancouver, BC now. And it was pretty wild because one of the people I ran into was someone that I have not run into since the last time I lived in Vancouver, which was over 23 years ago. So back then, she was brand new to the city, having moved up to the States to teach at UBC. And I was brand new to the city. Well, I had returned to the city after many years of not living in Vancouver, only for a year, because then I got accepted to a PhD program and moved back to the States. But the year that we had met each other, that particular year, back in 2006 or 7, was right before my first book got accepted for publication. So back then I was just a struggling writer with, publications in journals, but I had not gotten my first book. And there was a lot of things up in the air, and I didn't know where I was going next. And so, yeah, it was kind of funny to think back at sort of the young writer versions of us and that conversation that we had over 20 years ago. And now fast forward to that she was now onto, I think, her third teaching role, like now as a professor, full professor somewhere. And, with multiple books of poetry and fiction and things like that. If you want to read a little bit more about my work, you can find my author site here. And I'm the author of 2 books of poetry. Here's a short synopsis of each one. Here's first book of poetry is called Lost Country of Sight, and it won the Philip Levine Prize in 2007. And then the second book of poetry is a little bit more recent, still a few years back, is Babbage's Dream, which came out in 2017 and revolves around the history of computers, life and struggles of Charles Babbage, 19th century mathematician and computer pioneer, and artificial intelligence and voices of AI speaking back to us. So famous like literary and also real artificially intelligent machines speaking back to us, and then also modern programming spaces and programmers. Because my previous career, I'd worked as a computer games programmer, so that was an area I knew very well. And so those are my 2 books. And then I have also worked on literary translation from Chinese into English of contemporary poets. And I've also, in more recent years, have been working on opera libretto. And so my first full-length opera, in conjunction with this amazing composer, Juhi Bansal, is coming, it's in production right now, i.e. it's like they're lining up the cast, getting designs for the costumes and for the sets and the lighting. All this is in planning stages, and the hope is by the end of 2026 to have our debut. And then there is a festival debut in New York City in 2027, and then they're hoping to have an international tour after that. So that one's a big deal. I really should have a separate link for that, but you want to read about the opera, I really should make that up. Let's see. Let me just do that right now. Let me put together a little command so that I can make it easier for people to find. CloudBot commands, add command. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so now I think we can do this. Oh, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's the one I would recommend. Let's see here. Okay, so this is the Opera link here. So yeah. So yeah, you could read more about the opera there. That's the Beth Morrison Projects is the producer for this. So they're the bankroller for this. It won a major commission through them and through another granting organization, and so that's the big project. And at this point, all my work is done. I've written the libretto, and so libretto includes both the text that's sung as well as the narrative and the story arc, as well as some descriptions of like scenes and things like that. So a little scene setting and descriptions, lighting descriptions, things like that. So it was quite the experience. It was new to me to work on something on that level of specificity. The composer is someone I've worked with multiple times before on smaller projects, and so when she asked me to be the librettist, I was thrilled and also really seriously intimidated. So it's been a very humbling experience. There have been a lot of back and forth, a lot of feedback from the producer and from we had a dramaturge, and then we brought in a director, and so we've got more people involved in that process, but it's been very helpful. But yeah, you learn a lot. You learn a lot. People want you to succeed, so, but it is a lot of work. Okay. Should we do another batch? Yeah, so I am working very slowly on my third book of poetry. I'm also have plans for a book of essays, and I also have some short stories that I've been working on that I also would like to turn into something like a full collection at some point. But the short stories are definitely more back burner right now. And then I worked on something not too long ago, a few months back, which was a speculative fiction story. Not quite sci-fi, but almost sci-fi. Yeah. And it was something I'm very happy with, very proud of, and I do need to send it out for publication. So that is on my list of things to do this coming week, is format that book, or that manuscript, for that short story, and then send it out and see if I can get it landed, published someplace. Good. So tell me a little bit about your wife's book. What did she write about? Let's see, what'd you say about it? Hard work doing the whole agent publisher thing. Yeah, it is hard work. For poetry, we don't get agents. That's the very sad truth. There's no money in poetry, so there's no reason for an agent to be involved. Because they make a commission, they make a percentage off of the signing advance. And since there's not very much money in poetry, then there's no money for an agent. So unless you are already famous and can demand like a ridiculous amount of money as an advance for a book of poetry because you're a celebrity or because you're a well-known novelist, and this book of poetry is not being published by a traditional poetry press, it's being published by a press that normally does, fiction and already has deep pockets, or if they want to support you, then they kind of make it happen. But yeah, otherwise, not much money in poetry. Yeah, publishers are a double-edged sword. If you feel like they've not done a great job of marketing or supporting the book, it can be a bit of a fight to reclaim the book so that you can take that back. And then sometimes it's just like enough time passes and you feel like, okay, it's slid off the radar. It's no longer something that the publisher's interested in supporting. You want to take it back so that you can like do a better job of marketing it yourself. Okay. Okay. So, I mean, it sounds a little windy out there, so maybe we should spend some time just going through our stuff to see what we need to fix. So, this one I think can be fixed. But it is pretty impressive. HarperCollins picked it up, then that must mean, at least initially, they put some effort behind it. They gave her a 3-book deal. Yeah, that's a two-edged sword. Fallout book, 10 whole books, and each one they rejected. Well, yeah, that's kind of lame. Like, so my on my dissertation committee for my PhD, I had a history of science professor who has gone on to become an incredibly successful novelist. She is also still very much an incredible academic, but she also has become internationally famous for her series of books that became a TV series on BBC. But yeah, so like I had my history of science outside person for my dissertation was Deborah Harkness, famous for A Discovery of Witches series. They wanted a sequel she didn't want to write, so they were just blocking any submissions that were not a direct sequel. Oh, so they were looking, when they offered the 3-book deal, they really wanted to have a trilogy, like or at least a sequel to build off of the first book, and then maybe give permission to do like a short story collection or just something else. But they really wanted to build off of the first book. Yeah, that can be tricky. So yeah, when I was working on my dissertation, Deborah Harkness had just signed the contract. And she had finished the first 2 books, and they were saying like, look, we need the 3rd book now, like right now. So she had to take a year off and go on sabbatical and just lock herself away for a year to finish writing the 3rd book. I don't know if it was a full year, but it was at least it was 6 months, I think. She took off just so she could write that. And the university's like, yeah, I mean, good for you. But I mean, it was also, I think she had a phenomenal like breakthrough with that. And it's funny too, talking to her, she said like, you know, I had a writing group, but I'd never taken a formal creative writing class in my life. And that's why she was so grateful for her writing group, because she had opportunities to workshop with people, and they were really like very capable people. You know, this is Los Angeles. She was plugged into USC, and you know, so the circle of writers that she was familiar with through the university and through like the larger city area was pretty extensive. You know, I think she had a really solid writing group. But it was somewhat of a shock to her that, you know, that the agent was so successful in landing that deal. try to fix this one. Okay, let's get going here. It sounds pretty bad. Is it as bad as it sounds?
I'm not sure I can carry much more.
It's definitely not great. We got 5 flares. We could run it. I mean, weather-wise, it's not that bad. Not cold. I mean, we're only +10 and we're still, like, not freezing. At least not freezing hard. 1 arrow down. Oh, we're in Pleasant Valley right now. Last time we came down from Ash Canyon through Timberwolf Mountain. And then we popped down to Pleasant Valley to the Preppers cache. Preppers bunker. Now, one of my challenges, this is a really hard challenge to do, but I recommend this is like you should challenge yourself to visit every region at least once. This is kind of my most hardcore challenge that I've done. It's pretty fun, but it took a long time before I could beat it. It took me 30 attempts before I beat that one. But you have to travel to every region, and every time you enter a region, you roll a die, and it tells you how long you have to stay there. You cannot leave early, and you cannot leave late. That's exactly how long you have. And so regardless of weather or circumstances, you are on the move when it is your day to leave. And because that's based on, the rollover is based on when you spawned, so you have to keep checking your journal to see when the day turns over. But it's, yeah, if you spawn like late in the day, it's pretty much impossible to do the challenge. I've got pretty far once with a late spawn, but it's very hard. Because by the time the clock turns over, you'll only have a couple hours to get out of there because you have to be out of the region by midnight. So there's nothing like trying to travel through like Broken Railroad or across just trying to think of some of the other annoying places that are really, yeah, there's just a lot of annoying things about that challenge. But it was a good experience. You know, sometimes you step into the region and you think, okay, this will be great if all I have to do is like 1 to 4 days. And then, you know, after day 50, your length of time in the major regions is 1 to 20 days. So yeah, I've been cursed. I've been cursed on runs where I got like 20 days in Forsaken Airfield and 20 days in Zone of Contamination, and then like another 16 days in Airfield again. I'm like, what's going on? Just leave me some something here. It's just brutal. I also did a challenge not too long ago. I think before this one I was doing a challenge called Matchless, where I had to survive 50 days with no matches, you know, in Interloper. It's just like, that's a really interesting challenge. Like, every time you find matches, you have to leave them. You can only start fires with flares, maglins, or fire striker. And so, like, a lot of the things that you default behavior that you have, oh, I see a wolf coming, let me light a torch, you can't really do. You either have to find a way to keep your torches going, or you know, for a really long time, keep your fires going for a really long time, or you're going to rely on your flares, and every flare becomes like vital, because it's like not just for scaring off wolves, it's also for like the next flyer that you need to start. At least we don't have to worry about running into a bear, right? Just like... But things I don't know on this run is, I don't know, because of how they change things, which regions I'm going to run into a Timberwolf pack. I can hear wolves. Okay, thanks again, Bloody Cactus, for hanging out with us. And thanks again for letting me know about your wife's novel. Best of luck with the relaunch of that, and whatever comes next, writing-wise. You know, we'll skip those. We don't want that. Wolves out there. What kind of wolves are they? Okay.
I wonder if I can drop any of this gear.
Oops. Don't need that anymore. Okay. Peaches. Millions of peaches. Peaches from me. How are we doing here? Probably have about another half an hour. Oh, we do have a lantern now. That's right. Okay, let's see if we've missed anything here.
This pack is getting kind of heavy.
No, we don't need the salts. Hey, Prof. How it goes? Goes pretty well, actually. I'm officially done with all my coursework, so technically, done with my degree. The official graduation ceremony, the walk across the stage thing, isn't until November, though. So I guess, like, in some sense, the bestowal of the degree hasn't happened yet, but the program is done. Coursework is done.
Take it.
No, we don't want that. And I'm working on an application for a one-year position at the same university that I'm at. The position would start in November and run for a year. You know, obviously I'd prefer like a permanent role, but those are really few this year because of budget cuts. So these, you know, term positions or people leaving for like parental leave or sabbatical, those are the ones that you kind of have to seize onto for now, and then like after things hopefully get resolved with the university budgets, Canadian budgets, university budgets all got shafted badly about a year and a half ago when the federal government decided to stick a cap on all international student visas without really consulting with the universities, and that created this panic because suddenly the enrollment for international students dropped dramatically, and with that disappeared all the revenue that they usually collect from international student tuition, which a lot of universities rely on as a stopgap because their provincial and federal money, the governments haven't been, you know, supporting them at the levels that they used to. So, you know, basically they've been relying on international student tuition to help them through that. And now it's suddenly halved. And that is pretty devastating.
Barely walk with this much gear.
Yeah, oh boy, instruction is very different these days. I don't know. It's just an interesting world. I love the work I do as a creative writing coach and a manuscript editor outside of the academic system, in, you know, a capacity where people are not worried about grades. People are worried about learning. That's what I love. I love to be in that environment where people are not trying to figure out how to take shortcuts so that they can, you know, get done quickly. So, yeah, and I hear from my colleagues, you know, a lot of my friends that are teaching full-time right now, you know, about just how much time and energy is spent trying to deal with people using AI to bypass actual, like, intellectual labor. You know, they just don't want to do their own work anymore. And they think like, oh, this will save me time, so I can spend more time doing what? If you don't engage in the work of the mind, then you're kind of missing out the point of the university experience. Is you're supposed to be actively learning and engaged in using your mind. You like farm that all out to an AI, then you're not gaining that much. And when things stop working or don't work as intended, what will you do? Yeah. So I think like that to me is like an important part of it. Would I teach a creative writing course again? I probably would if someone offered it to me. I teach, but I think I've found that I'm enjoying teaching outside the university, whether it's through some sort of a third-party organization. Like I taught a 10-day intensive class for Sage Hill Writing Workshops, which is a Canadian organization. And I had a blast. Everyone that took that class, they were 100% committed to being there. We met daily. We had, at least 3 hours together every day. And it was really a great experience. I think we need to cook our stuff here. AI is the mind boggler. It totally is. Yeah. Honestly, it's deeply troubling, what it's done to people's critical thinking abilities. At the same time, I feel like, there are applications for AI that have been really helpful. Like even on Friday when I was meeting with someone who is, are like one of the university's AWS, like Amazon Web Services specialists, like works on the specific team that supports student-led initiatives and creating, innovative applications of like AWS, services, create new applications, things like that. Anyways, talking to him to get some advice on how to approach a particular problem that I'm trying to help a faculty person develop a prototype to solve. And we've been spinning our wheels for weeks, really months, trying to get it to work. One of the things that he said is, most of the time when we work with our students, we're basically starting off with Jupyter notebooks. And I said, well, do you have like a template or a prototype for doing that? No, we just tell them to like put it into ChatGPT and, write a prompt that says like, hey, I need a Jupyter notebook that does this. And it spits out the code and the explanation. I was like, that's totally a legit use. I see that. But it was kind of funny to me that, I'm of the generation where that was not my first thought. Like, oh yeah, I should just ask ChatGPT to spit that out for me. But that's okay. So that's a use case I can see. It's like, oh, if you needed to quickly spin up those type of things. I think that makes sense. No, we shouldn't have put them in here. Well. That was inefficient. I could have make the pancakes. That would be better. Oh well. Yeah, on the other hand, I also was using Amazon Bedrock Llama 3 model to do some testing for something else, kind of related to the same project. And, one of the, so I set it up and I gave it sort of a context, the prompt that provided the context. And then, like, I was asking it, what is the minimum grade if I have these grades so far on my first 2 assignments, and these are the rest of the grades, or the rest of the assignments are worth this much, and this is how much the midterm's worth, and this is how much is the final exam worth. What do I need to aim for on my remaining grades in order to get, an 85 in the class? And it was interesting to me to watch it go through the math and get most of it right and then mess up. I was like, oh. And then I was talking to someone else about it. I said, yeah, it's like ChatGPT is much better at math than Llama 3. Llama 3 is not good at math. Llama 3 makes mistakes sometimes. Like, okay. Not my imagination. Oops. Dude, these are all cooked. Not like in a Gen Z way. They're all cooked. Yeah, I think using it. I think like there are responsible ways of using AI and teaching the use of AI. I think like a knee-jerk response that all AI use is wrong or unethical. I mean, there's an environmental case to be made, which is that most people's use of AI ends up being frivolous and environmentally expensive. Yeah. I mean, I think that's true. So I think that's something that should be addressed. But I think it does, like, people's use of, the other thing is people's use of AI in terms of their information behavior. The people tend to use AI the same way that we were using search engines. But there's a very, very significant problem with that that people do not understand, which is that search engines index existing documents and, by and large, like there are different levels of constraint and setups that you can do to ensure that what you're referencing is a subset of the internet that actually is useful, or you could restrict it to certain sites, or you could do a host of different things. But you can put a little bit more safeguards in there. With the AI, the way that people tend to ask things of AI, the problem with AI, generative AIs, is that if they cannot find something, they will fabricate something that is a reasonable facsimile. They will make up stuff because they would prefer that they give you a answer, even if it's a made-up answer, rather than say, I don't know. And so, and that's something that, like, the companies involved in AI development have come to realize is a problem. It's like... Yeah. Yeah. But, AI discussions are definitely something we talk about in sort of like its role in pedagogy, its role in user interaction with information, or just generally speaking, how do patrons like seek out information. And I think like understanding what most AI, generative AI, and like large language models are good at and what they're bad at, understanding their limitations, I think is key. And I don't think we do enough of that type of training in education. Are you reminded of my story about Deep Blue, where, like in the poem, where Deep Blue apologizes, and that which is based on an article where the programmers admitted that if they ever reached a point where, like, going down the binary search tree to try to evaluate best next move, they couldn't. The tree, like the branches of the tree, were equally weighted as far as they could tell. It would just flip a coin. If they couldn't tell which was the better path to take, they just flipped a coin rather than try to push down further to evaluate more. Yeah, if it knew it was going to take too long, it just flipped a coin. It's like, and Kasparov was absolutely freaked out because it's like, how does it know so quickly? It's like, I can't figure out the difference between these two moves. How does it know? Does it see something I don't see? It's like, what's going on?
It's getting too heavy to carry.
Okay, so we got these guys, and we also have our Lucky Ducky. Our, why not? Let's say Lucky Ducky. Yeah, I would have a lot more respect for generative AI systems if they simply said, I don't know. Yeah. Okay. Okay, we got these guys. Let's go ahead and eat all our canned goods. Our bannock is going bad, so we might as well eat that too. Look, we have 10 liters of water. That's a bit of overkill, right? Oh, Prof, did I tell you about my idea? Check it. I think you mentioned Vintage Story before. Yeah, and I think I was going to check that out. Maybe it was Roller recommended it too. But I do think it's on my wish list. I don't think I've actually purchased it yet. But I was about to say, like, I played a bit of Tiny Bookshop. I don't know if you played that before. And it kind of made me think that I want to develop a whole game around being a fantasy bookseller. And so I started thinking about whether it should be a card game or if it should be a role-playing game or if it should be a computer game. So I'm still making final decisions about how to implement it, but I started drafting like some tables and some ideas about how it would function. You know, the goal isn't to make like a D&D clone. The goal is to, your basic idea is that you are a fantasy bookseller,
Right about now.
and a little bit like Moonlighter, you in order to have stock, you do have to go to dungeons or ruins or other places or marketplaces and buy, trade, or find things to sell in your bookshop.
I'm not sure I can carry much more.
Okay, another long shot here. It's going to be... Oh, did we ever find a hacksaw? No. Okay, so let's try our luck over here with the car and see if we can find a hacksaw. There's a wolf over there. I think it's just the one wolf. No hacksaw here. Craterverse. Don't think I've played that before. I also have been playing the rather mindless Luck Be a Landlord, which is kind of like Balatro, but predates Balatro, and is basically a slot machine game with like different elements that you add to it over time. And what's that? Let's see what we have over here. It's a mythical beast. We never see these ones alive. They only exist as dead carcasses. Or, I mean, only exist as carcasses. Carcasses are already dead. Portal Knights. So even though I finished my program, I still have not bought Baldur's Gate 3. My new justification for not buying Baldur's Gate 3 is that I'm not buying Baldur's Gate 3 until I successfully land a full-time position for myself for the next year at least.
Come on, little fire.
Then maybe I'll think about it. But right now, I need to focus on ensuring that I have a steady, reasonable income that carries me through the new year instead of like running out. Oops, we still have no hacksaw. That still sucks. Okay, so what shall we do? Now we got all these extra tunes. Yeah, I know. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I haven't done it, is because it feels like such a big commitment. I'm like, I don't feel like I have that in me. 80 to 100 hours, that's so much time, says the person who's got, what is it now? Almost 3,700 hours in this game? Yeah. I'm like... It's apples to oranges. It's not the same thing. Yeah, exactly. Oh, guilty. I'm not going to play Baldur's Gate 3 until I finish writing my own full-fledged computer game to replace it. Yeah. Oh, did we leave? We left all the pots and pans. Oh, that's embarrassing. Uh-oh. Yeah, we're not rescuing that. Yeah, I think we just have to accept our loss here. We're not going to be able to get more off of this without running the risk of freezing. It also might be a good time to wrap up. So, oh, other news, Prof. In other news, I was actually productive, and I sent out poems, submitted poems for publication, and like productive. I sent them to one place and then waited like 2.5 weeks, and then got a response. But they liked 2 out of the 3 poems I sent, so I have 2 forthcoming poems. Yay! I'm not dead yet as a writer. I apparently can still write things that people want to publish. So, yep, we got more. Okay. Let me just throw down our bedroll here. Or we could go down and see if we can craft anything. Read a poem. Yeah, so I have to wait for those poems to get published. Probably the next. I'm waiting for. They're supposed to send me proofs, which is basically the digital copy, and then I just okay it as being yes, that's they laid it out correctly, but and there's no typos or spelling mistakes. So I'm waiting for those, and then once that happens, then I think there's a go-ahead for publication, and then we just wait for the announcement of the new issue. So once they're officially published into the world, then I can officially read them online because they'll have already been published by that point. Okay, so, but we are going to probably wrap up here, I think. We've hit our 2-hour mark. That's usually what we do. 81, 86. Take that one. We'll take this one. Okay, not much else we can do out there. We'll just nap here for... Let's see, what are we at here? We are currently on day 14. Let's update that. Oops, 14. We'll read some poems at the end here. Yeah. You know, the funny thing is the journal is called $, and or the long title is Poetry is Money, I think, or Poetry is Currency. And so they actually do pay. It's not like a lot of money, it's a little bit of money, but it's still money, right? So it's like poetry did pay. Yeah, I got money for my poetry. Okay, so we are done, I think, for this evening. We are going to go read some poems. And let's see here. Any other requests? I think, yeah, so let's read something from Babbage. And then probably wrap up for the night. And we'll go read someone else. Okay, we'll read Variable. This is from Babbage's Dream. This is entitled Variable, which can represent numeric values, characters, character strings, or memory addresses. part of Babbage's Dream, published by Sundress Publications in 2017. Variable. We could be anyone else to the ones above, who have left while it was still day, their long cars gleaming like a fine press of fish in their new silvered skins. Here, in the dark, T might as well be M, who cranes his neck towards the unstarred sky. The two of them, swimmers, drowning in the same moment. A pair of jacaranda trees set suddenly aflame. We could be whatever leaps from our leaden arms now deep in someone else's unkempt lines of code. Whatever resists the hand pressed to the board, the letters slippery in the late hours. If we stood by the windows staring out, we might see how the darkness lays itself down, gathered like the black stones in the planters that frame each exit of this floor. We might be any name, any number, any point along the line that extends full circle, as if each cubicle were a faint lotus glowing in the dark, awaiting the right call, the right push into light. So part of Variable, the inspiration for Variable, was the, I'm referencing some of the other programmers just by initials, like T and M. And that's partly kind of a nod towards Kafka. And in Kafka's stories, his novels, in sort of this world of hyper-bureaucracy, the characters lose their names, and like the main character is just K, right? So I kind of like play into that sort of an anonymous, faceless bureaucracy type thing where we are dehumanized as programmers and turned into mere variables. Like in the olden days in BASIC, frequently our variable names were just single characters, like that. And then it also plays towards sort of the vibe that we would get from HR. Whenever something terrible would happen or someone got laid off, we'd also get these we'd be pulled aside by HR and they would tell us, it's like, look, or the managers would say the same thing. They'd say like, look, you should be grateful you're still here. We could replace you any day. There are tons of other programmers who love to step. There are fresh out of high school, fresh out of university students who would love to step in and take your place. You could be replaced at any moment. And so we ourselves as programmers were kind of treated as like easy to swap in and out of. Of course, that's not the case. If you work on any programming team, you know that there are people who are irreplaceable, whose way of looking at code and looking at systems, looking and working with other people, completely irreplaceable. You cannot replace them with someone else. They're not a simple, easy to replace person at all. But that's not how, the bean counters see it. So that's kind of, variable. And I do feel like that's kind of this disconnect that runs not just in the tech industry, but like in lots of industries, a lot in governments too, where there's this disconnect between the people who do the work on the ground level and the people at the top who can only consider them in terms of numbers and think one person's numbers are better than another person's numbers. And then there's lots of intangibles that you don't see until too late are responsible. They're the grease. This person is the grease that ensures the whole operation works. And when you take them out of the equation, then suddenly, although it doesn't show up initially in the numbers, it shows up in the aftermath, how much of an impact they were having. But they'll still try. Exactly. They'll still try. Okay, so that was Variable from Babbage's Dream. And let's go find ourselves someone to raid. Who should we go raid? Okay, so looking at our list here. Wow, it's a short list tonight. Wow. Okay, so we got Tier Forged. What is this? Oh, Carradine changed names. Okay, okay, so we could go back and hang out with Carradine. Okay. No bedroll, true outer Nagoa. Wow, PETA's doing that. Yeah, I think we'll visit the streamer formerly known as Carradine. Okay, thanks all. We'll be back again Tuesday night, I believe. Plan. And yeah, Tuesday night for certain. And then I think I'm going to try again to be on either Wednesday or I don't know. Like my weekends are all weird now since my D&D game moved to Thursday night. So, but we'll try to figure out when the next one is. But definitely Tuesday. You'll see me on Tuesday. Take care, and we'll see you all then. Bye.